We tried being reasonable, not anymore. That was the phrase historians used to anchor the moment humanity abandoned diplomacy after the Empire's genocide. The phrase wasn't shouted. It wasn't emotional. It carried the cold weight of a decision already made. The Empire expected fury, desperation, bargaining, reactions they understood and could predict. But humanity responded with a stillness that unsettled every species who witnessed it. Reason had been offered, tested, exhausted. What returned was calculation. A quiet shift in posture. A change in the room's temperature. A realization that Earth had stopped asking for peace and started preparing for outcome. Survivors described the transition as eerie, like standing near a deep ocean trench that suddenly exhaled. No sound. No threat. Just inevitability. Empires anticipated noise. Humanity offered consequence. And the galaxy would soon understand one unspoken truth. Humans did not raise their voices when pushed to the edge. They simply changed the rules. Part 2, Scene Setup, almost equals 800 words. Helios Tribunal Station floated above the radiant storm belts of Seralis, its metal arcs shimmering like a cold crown suspended by invisible threads. The station's architecture was deliberate, immaculate surfaces, rigid geometric lines, glass panels so polished they reflected even the faintest pulse of corridor lights. Every corner announced the Empire's philosophy: perfection through control. Inside, the atmosphere felt engineered to suppress spontaneity. Temperature calibrated. Humidity balanced. Even the ambient hum of machinery was tuned to a rhythm chosen for psychological influence. Nothing here was accidental. Nothing chaotic. The tribunal chamber was the heart of it all, a colossal arena of curved alloy and shimmering hololith displays arranged with mathematical symmetry. The ceiling rose high enough to vanish in an artificial nebula of soft, blue-tinted mist, illuminated by distant points of light that mimicked compressed stars. The floor was made from transparent composite layers, glowing faintly beneath each footstep. This was the Empire's Cathedral of Judgment. High Adjudicator Tarshan Velukar presided at the center. A towering Elith, his physique was angular and sharp, as if grown from crystalline architecture. For crystalline eyes glowed with calm superiority. His robe, deep navy with silver-threaded sigils, flowed in precise lines, never wavering. Even the way he breathed carried deliberate timing, as though he followed internal chronographs. Beside him stood an array of Imperial support staff, archivists, mathematicians, diagnostic technicians. Each one monitored consoles that circled the chamber and modular platforms suspended by gravitational anchors. Directly across from Velukar sat Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Coalition. Elias wore a simple navy uniform with a high collar and a small silver earth sigil on the chest. No decorations. No marks of status. His posture was relaxed yet grounded, hands resting calmly on the polished table, back straight without rigidity. His expression, soft, contemplative, unreadable, carried an unsettling neutrality. Even seated in the Empire's engineered monument to superiority, he looked untroubled. Around the chamber's circular tiers gathered representatives of allied and vassal species. Their bodies shifted with various tones of amusement and expectation. A Zelrani diplomat lounged with her iridescent feathers shimmering, fanning one hand to hide a growing smirk. A Tiarvan archivist, an insected creature with segmented limbs, clicked its mandibles impatiently, tapping one chitinous finger against its datapad. A Kothari mathematician, spherical body supported by three jointed legs, adjusted the multi-lens visor that rotated around its head, each lens analyzing a different part of the room simultaneously. They were here to observe what they assumed would be a reaffirmation of human inadequacy. High Adjudicator Velukar spread his forearms slightly in a gesture of formal commencement. His voice, when it filled the chamber, had the polished resonance of someone accustomed to command. "Begin the competency review," he declared. A dozen hololith projectors burst to life. Floating statistics spun in elegant spirals, neuro-response charts, muscle density comparisons, reflex curves, endurance metrics, sensory ranges. The models labeled Homo sapiens glowed in dimmer tones, differences highlighted in warning red. Velooker turned his crystalline gaze toward Elias. This session, Captain Rourke, concerns your species' performance within the Empire's operational frameworks, he said. We intend to evaluate your compatibility with high-precision environments. Elias simply nodded. Understood. Velooker's eyes narrowed slightly. Your calmness in this situation is unusual. Elias shrugged gently. Calm isn't unusual. It's efficient. Somebody in the gallery stifled a laugh. The Zelrani diplomat whispered to her neighbor. Humans pretend confidence when overwhelmed. It is a psychological tic. The Kothari hummed in mild agreement. Elias heard them. He didn't react. He didn't need to. Velooker continued, gesturing toward the shimmering holograms. As we proceed, we will demonstrate countless physiological and behavioral examples showcasing humanity's limitations. Elias's expression didn't change. Velooker pressed, as though expecting a flinch. None came. The humans sat as still as a deep ocean with something powerful beneath. The longer Elias remained calm, the more the gallery shifted with subtle discomfort. They could not articulate why. They only sensed it. The human silence didn't feel like fear. It felt like observation. And that was worse. Velooker raised one arm and activated the demonstration sequence. High Adjudicator Velooker expanded the central hololith until it filled the chamber with rotating anatomical comparisons. Human skeletons spun next to the exoskeletal frames of Tiarvan soldiers, beside the dense mineral-bonded bones of the Kothari, and the lightweight crystalline structures of the Elith. Observe, Velooker said, pacing with predatory precision. Human physiological inconsistency remains your most defining trait. Bone density varies alarmingly between individuals. Muscle fiber distribution is uneven. Sensory acuity ranks near the bottom of all space-faring species. A wave of polite laughter rippled through the gallery. The Zelrani diplomat tilted her head. My cousin's hatchling has better ultraviolet sensitivity than your adult soldiers. The Tiarvan archivist clicked its mandibles. Their reflex lag is nearly comedic. How do they not die constantly? Velooker continued as though delivering a sermon. Humanity's evolution appears driven not by selective refinement. He lifted a finger. But environmental chaos. Storms, tectonic shifts, thermal extremes. Primitive hardships that shaped an equally primitive response mechanism. He adjusted the projection again. You compensate through improvisation. This is often described as creativity, but in imperial terms, it is merely unfiltered reaction. A species improvises only when proper preparation is absent. More laughter. Even the Kothari, who rarely emoted, released a soft harmonic hum of amusement. Velooker leaned forward, feathers flaring in arrogance. This unpredictability may work for Stone Age survival. But in high-precision systems, navigation, emergency containment, zero-gravity coordination, improvisation is an unmitigated liability. He turned sharply toward Elias. Human error, Velooker announced, is not merely common. It is inevitable. Elias lifted an eyebrow. Not confrontational, just curious. His voice remained soft and level. Inevitability is a strong word. Velooker smiled the way predators smile when prey pretends to understand danger. Strong, he agreed. And accurate. The gallery nodded confidently. The Empire's superiority, in their minds, was not just fact, it was axiomatic. Elias sat quietly, absorbing every assumption spoken into the room. Velooker delivered the final blow with a flourish. This is why today's demonstration is necessary. To show you, clearly and undeniably, the limitations of your species. Elias simply replied, All right. The faint tremor of unease among the gallery species was immediate. Not fear, just the unsettling recognition that humans never argued when they already knew the outcome. Part 4, Human Questions, almost equals 450 words. Elias leaned forward, elbows resting lightly against the polished table. May I ask something before we continue? Velooker paused mid-step, feathers tightening. Proceed. Elias gestured toward the floating matrix of statistics. These metrics, Reaction time, sensory range, stability curves, are they based on field data or simulations? The looker blinked once, crystalline eyes refracting blue light. Simulations, of course. Real-world conditions are far too inconsistent to support controlled analysis. Elias nodded slowly. So the tests assume stable gravity, predictable movement, fixed environmental patterns? Naturally. And humans underperform in those systems. Yes. Elias tilted his head. But emergencies don't happen in controlled simulations. The whispering began instantly. The Tiarvan archivist clicked uneasily. The Zelrani diplomat narrowed her bright eyes. The Kothari mathematician's lenses spun in 3 directions at once. The looker frowned, feathers ridging. Emergencies are not the primary focus of standardized performance. But emergencies, Elias said softly, are where people actually die. Silence rippled outward like shockwaves. The Kothari broke first. His logic is statistically sound. Catastrophic events rarely follow predictable structure. The looker snapped. The Empire has protocols for unpredictability. Elias met his gaze with steady composure. Pre-written protocols for chaos? The Zelrani diplomat inhaled sharply. 2 of her feathers flattened involuntarily. The looker's voice tightened. Your tone implies criticism. No, Elias said. Just observation. The calmness in his voice was surgical. Not insulting. Not emotional. Just accurate. The Kothari scientist leaned forward, fascinated. If a species' survival traits develop through environmental fluctuation, such individuals may react faster to entropy-based anomalies. The Tiarvan added reluctantly. Humans may perceive instability differently. The looker bristled, but the shift was already happening. Elias continued. If the Empire only trains for stability, you'll struggle when stability collapses. Humans don't have that disadvantage. The looker's jaw tightened. You claim your species thrives in disorder? Elias shrugged lightly. We just don't freeze. The entire gallery felt the floor tilt, not physically, but metaphorically. The confidence in the room wavered. The power dynamic shifted. And everyone realized one simple thing. The human wasn't arguing to win. He was explaining a reality the Empire had never bothered to consider. The looker straightened abruptly. Enough discussion. We proceed to the demonstration. Elias rose. Calm. Neutral. A quiet storm waiting for pressure. The demonstration arena unfolded below the tribunal like a mechanical iris opening. The floor split into circular segments that rotated apart, revealing a suspended spherical chamber lined with silver-white alloy. Platforms hovered at varying heights, each rotating in synchronized patterns along pre-programmed trajectories. Light lattice pathways traced the intended route participants were expected to follow. High Adjudicator Velooker descended with ceremonial grace. This is a standard stability navigation course, he announced. Designed to measure precision under controlled conditions. He took his place at the starting platform. His movements were flawless, every step perfectly timed to each platform's rotation, wings adjusting minutely for balance. He completed the course without a single wobble. Polite applause filled the gallery. Next came the other species. The Zelrani diplomat attempted the course with impressive fluidity, until Platform 5 drifted slightly, causing her to flail her iridescent feathers in a panicked flutter before catching herself. She still finished, but not elegantly. The Tiarvan archivist leapt enthusiastically and immediately misjudged the gravity calibration. It landed on Platform 2, slipped, spun midair, and latched onto a railing with a frantic clatter. A technician had to help it down. The Kothari mathematician attempted to calculate the precise timing for each jump in real time. The calculations were flawless. The execution, less so. Its spherical body rolled off Platform 7 and bounced twice before settling in a confused heap. Elias stepped forward next. He did not take the starting stance used by the others. He did not wait for the recommended timing interval. He didn't calibrate his breathing. Instead, he watched. He observed the platform's rotational drift, not the official rhythm, but the micro-variations each one carried as the machinery aged. Then he stepped. Not into the predicted pattern. Not into the scripted path. Into the reality of the room. He landed on a platform half a second before its programmed stability peak and adjusted with a subtle shift of his center of gravity. His next movement was sideways, not forward, counterintuitive to every trained participant but perfectly aligned with the platform's unexpected micro-tilt. Halfway through, Platform 8 jittered, a near imperceptible variance. The looker's wings snapped open in alarm. Elias adjusted mid-step, letting his weight roll through the shift with the ease of someone accustomed to treacherous sidewalks and rushing crowds. He reached the end without slipping once. Without hesitation. Without fanfare. Silence overtook the chamber. Elias brushed light dust from his sleeve. Seemed stable enough. The gallery felt something they didn't understand. Not fear. Not all. Recognition. Humans had not overachieved, under the Empire's rules. They had outperformed because the Empire didn't understand the rules of the real universe. Part 6, Accidental Training Reveal, almost equals 450 words. The looker regained his composure with visible effort. Captain Rourke, explain how you compensated for drift before predictive sensors registered deviation. Elias shrugged lightly. We grow up doing this. The Zelrani diplomat frowned. Your species trains on rotating platforms as juveniles? Not exactly. Elias smiled a little. We have playgrounds. The Tiarvan archivist tilted its head. Playgrounds? Yeah, Elias said. Metal bars. Spinning wheels. Rope nets. Tree branches. Rooftops kids sneak onto when they're not supposed to. Debris fields after storms. You know, normal childhood stuff. Half the chamber recoiled. The looker's voice sharpened. Are you implying your offspring are allowed, encouraged even, to interact with unstable terrain? No one encourages it, Elias said. They just do it anyway. Humans are curious. Kids especially. The Kothari mathematician's lenses whirled in agitation. Statistically catastrophic. Sometimes, Elias admitted. But they learn balance before they learn algebra. Murmurs rippled through the room. Elias continued casually. And adults keep practicing. Icy sidewalks in winter. Running for buses that stop without warning. Jumping over potholes. Crowded city foot traffic. Sports with moving targets. Surfing. Climbing. Hiking. Slipping on spilled coffee. You name it. The gallery stared as if witnessing collective insanity. The looker managed. You treat environmental unpredictability as normal. We don't treat it as anything. Elias corrected. It just is normal. The Tiarvan archivist whispered. They train reflexive adaptation unconsciously. The Kothari scientist whispered. Their neural pathways must encode entropy resilience patterns by adolescence. The Zelrani diplomat said softly. You walk on chaos as if it were flat ground. Elias breathed out a small laugh. Pretty much. The looker exhaled sharply through his teeth. Your species' adaptability is not strategic. It is accidental. Right. Elias nodded. Daily life trains us. You can't avoid it. Another silence fell. Deeper this time. Heavier. The Empire always assumed chaos was the enemy. Humans survived because chaos was their home. The looker spoke again, his voice thinner than before. This information will require significant re-evaluation. Elias stayed relaxed. Take your time. But the gallery knew this. Humans planned less. Because reality had already trained them more. Elias became a quiet fixture in the tribunal's daily operations, often observing from the back while various species presented simulations, risk evaluations, or technological advancements. He rarely spoke unless spoken to, yet every time he did, the room shifted, small shifts, subtle ones, but unmistakable. Where once his presence drew smirks, it now drew glances of caution. Even High Adjudicator Velooker became measured. That change might have continued gradually, quietly. until the day the station screamed. It began with a sound no species wanted to hear, a metallic groan rolling through the station's spine, followed by a violent shudder that rattled every panel. Lights flickered. Magnetic stabilizers bucked. Hololith projectors glitched in chaotic spirals. Then the alarms detonated. Gravitational rift detected. Decks 4 through 7 compromised. Hull fracture, Section 4B. Containment failure imminent. Chaos erupted in an instant. The Zelrani diplomat shrieked as gravity tilted 45 degrees without warning. She tumbled across the tribunal platform, feathers exploding in every direction. The Tiarvan archivist latched onto a support column, clicking frantically as his segmented body swung like a pendulum. The Kothari mathematician tried to stabilize its rotation but ended up spinning helplessly like an overturned gyro. Even Velukar faltered. His wings flared wide, clawed feet scrambling for purchase as the floor buckled beneath him. Elias was already moving. As the chamber tilted, he planted one foot firmly, bent his knees, and slid, not out of control, but guided, across the slanted floor as though anticipating each micro-lurch before it happened. A collapsing console toppled toward 3 diplomats. Elias intercepted it, absorbing the impact with a shoulder brace before pushing it aside. Another gravity shift hit. The direction inverted entirely. Everyone screamed. Elias rotated midair reflexively, tucked his legs, adjusted his orientation, and landed on the ceiling with a clean, decisive crouch. He immediately ran, not floated, not drifted, ran along the inverted surface with practiced control. A support beam snapped loose. Elias ducked. A fire burst from a ruptured conduit. He sidestepped. A Tiarvan archivist slid toward an open maintenance shaft. Elias Dove hooked one arm around the alien's torso and slammed his boot against a sparking panel, halting their fall just in time. He softened his landing, turned, and sprinted toward the breach corridor. The hatch was buckling outward, metal screeching as atmosphere tore through microscopic fractures. Elias slammed his body weight against the emergency seal, one clean push, and triggered manual lockdown. The blast door slammed shut. Silence followed. A distorted, ringing, fragile silence. Gravity rebalanced with a lurch. The room slowly rotated back to normal orientation. When the lights stabilized, the tribunal saw Elias standing beside the sealed breach, breathing evenly, as though he had just completed a warm-up exercise. Velukar stared at him with wide, crystalline eyes. "How?" he rasped. "Did you?" Elias brushed dust off his uniform. "Chicago trains in winter," he said simply. "Everyone learns fast." Not a single species understood the reference. But every single one understood the implication. What nearly destroyed them was, to a human, something familiar enough to joke about. The station spent 3 days repairing hull fractures and recalibrating gravitational stabilizers. Every species on board contributed in some way, but conversation always circled back to one point. "Did you see what the human did?" Some whispered the question like reverence. Others like fear. Most like they didn't know the difference. When the tribunal reconvened, the mood had changed permanently. Velukar no longer towered above Elias. He no longer paced like a predator. Instead, he stood beside the human, wings folded respectfully, posture subdued. "Captain Rourke," Velukar began, voice lacking its previous arrogance. "Your actions prevented catastrophic loss of life. The Empire owes you a debt beyond quantification." Elias inclined his head. "I was in the right place at the right time." "No," Velukar said firmly. "You were prepared in a way we were not." The Kothari mathematician approached, visor lenses spinning in humbled fascination. "Your reflex adaptation to gravitational anomalies was unprecedented." The Zelrani diplomat lowered her feathered fan. "Your species teaches children reflex control through uncontrolled terrain?" Elias chuckled softly. "No one teaches it. It just happens." Velukar inhaled sharply. "We request your assistance. The Empire's emergency frameworks must be rewritten. Your instinctive responses and adaptive methodology must be documented." Elias nodded. I'll help however I can. The room exhaled collectively. It was not just respect. It was admission. Admission that humanity had been judged by the wrong standards. Admission that the Empire's arrogance had blinded them. Admission that humans weren't dangerous because they were aggressive, but because they were prepared for a universe the Empire pretended was orderly. The looker bowed deeply. Thank you, Captain Rourke. Elias returned the bow with modest precision. Chaos had exposed the truth. And the Empire would never underestimate Earth again. As the chamber emptied and diplomats drifted toward their respective platforms, the looker called out softly. Captain Rourke, one final question. Elias turned. The looker's four crystal eyes narrowed, not threateningly, but thoughtfully. What should the Empire remember about humanity after all this? Elias considered the question, not for drama, but because humans thought before they spoke, especially when the words mattered. His posture was relaxed, his breathing controlled, his eyes steady. When he answered, his voice carried the weight of quiet truth. When everything goes wrong, that's when we're at our best. The looker froze. The gallery froze. Everyone understood exactly what he meant. Humans did not thrive in perfect systems. They thrived in broken ones. And the galaxy had plenty of broken things. Elias gave a final nod and walked away, calm, unhurried, certain, leaving the Empire with a truth they would carry for generations. They hadn't just underestimated humanity. They had misunderstood the entire design.